Howdy readers, I'm Jason, this is Kelly, and this is Chapter and Verse. So what we're going to do this evening is talk to you a little bit about the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. Okay, tomorrow the Pulitzer is being awarded. It's the 100th anniversary of the prize. And Kelly is going to talk to you as well about her Pulitzer Prize project that she did some years back, and it's ongoing. So just real quickly, the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction is only open to American writers. Okay, it has that in common with the National Book Award. At the beginning of the prize, 100 years ago, it was known as the Pulitzer Prize for the Novel. And then in 1948, the Pulitzer Committee at Columbia University decided to open the prize up to short story collections. And at that point, it became known as the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. So Kelly is going to talk to us about the Pulitzer Prize project that she did. So she has read every single novel and short story collection that has won the Pulitzer Prize. And what prompted you to do such a crazy thing?
It is a crazy thing. I decided to do the Pulitzer Project in December of 2007. It was about 6 months after I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and I was really just sick of thinking about epilepsy all the time and wanted to focus on something else. Jason and I were both working in a bookstore in Montana, and so I figured, it was career development along with just thinking about something else. I thought I could do it in a year. Don't ask me why. I could not. I finished in February of 2010. So all of 2008 and 2009, I was reading a lot of Pulitzers. I did read other things in there. But until tomorrow, when they make the announcement, as of this moment, I have read all of the books that have won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. So it was quite an endeavor. So
yeah, it was Pulitzer madness in our house for a couple of years. A lot of old, musty smelling books in our library alone. I think it's always worth it. I think it's always worth finding a prize that one is interested in or that one loves, and trying to kind of plow your way through its history.
Well, and I probably tend to read more classics or more British fiction. I realized kind of when it came to American literature, I was not so well versed. And reading all of the books that have won the Pulitzer Prize really gave me a great snapshot of American literature, and taught me quite a bit about American history. And
one of the things that should be noted is that, and this isn't always true, but it's a kind of a guideline for the Pulitzer Prize committee, that they often want the books to reflect the American experience or to reflect or embody Americana. Now that isn't always the case, as is true of like The Orphan Master's Son, but in the end, the prize, because it's only open to Americans, it reflects how Americans see their own existence, and it reflects how American writers see the world as well.
The majority of the Pulitzers are really about America and the people who live here. So
yeah. All right. So, what are your three favorite Pulitzer Prize winning works of fiction?
This was very hard. I actually have a shelf on Goodreads where I keep all the Pulitzers. The first one is The Grapes of Wrath. I did not read. This is Jason's lovely folio edition. Believe me, this is not the copy I read. And I'll let him show you some of the stuff inside there. But anyway, this won the Pulitzer in 1940. And I had only read Steinbeck's some of his smaller novels of Mice and Men and The Pearl before, so I hadn't kind of taken on one of the big Steinbeck books, and I loved it. Great book.
Well, it was made into a really great movie.
It was made into a
John
great
Ford movie with
Yes.
Henry Fonda.
Yes.
And it's one of those rare instances where maybe the movie is actually as good as the book, or it's close.
Yeah.
To as good as the book.
You and I disagree a little bit about the ending, but that's also because you haven't read the book.
I have read The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, yeah. I've read The Grapes of Wrath.
I've read East of Eden, which you haven't read.
Okay.
And The Grapes of Wrath is better.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Okay. So the next book is The Stories of John Cheever, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 1979. And I do want to say, like, if you embark on any kind of literary award project where you're trying to read all of them, you may find yourself reading a lot of short stories. I read, I can think of at least 4 just off the top of my head without looking at the list of collections of short stories. But I thought this writing in here was masterful. You know, it is set in a very specific time and place, but it's universal, which is why it will last. The third one is Andersonville by McKinley Cantor, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 1956. This is one of the Pulitzers, I'm going to push it a little bit closer, that when I got done with it, I was just like, why isn't everybody talking about this book? I did actually persuade my dad to read it. It's one of like 2 books that I've ever persuaded my dad to read. But it is phenomenal. I wish more people were talking about this book. I wish this was more widely known. It deals with the prisoner of war camps, particularly Andersonville in the South. It was just a great reading experience, and a great history lesson as well. So, and then this is just one of my favorite books that happens to be a Pulitzer winner. Gone with the Wind won the Pulitzer in 1937. So, got to put in a little plug there for her. So, okay, next question.
What is the Pulitzer Prize winner that you feel is greatly underappreciated?
So I am gonna put this closer here. This is Now in November by Josephine Johnson. She won the Pulitzer in 1935. This is about the Dust Bowl and the Depression. And to have written it in 1935, I just have the feeling like she must have been, living it, surrounded by it. I'll read you the description really quick. Family of 3 daughters struggled to exist as dirt-poor farmers, their father unable to respond to the fiercely devoted eldest girl who longs to be his son. The brief and intense narrative movingly evokes the torment of people isolated and driven by strong, if unexpressed, feelings of love and hatred, and paints a great portrait of the Depression and the Dust Bowl years. This is a hard one to find, so you will need either a really excellent used bookstores possibly, interlibrary loan. If you have a Kindle, it is available on the Kindle. This edition that we have here is actually the UK version of it, because just you can't find it anywhere. And again, this is another one I wish everyone was talking about, because it is so fantastic. The writing is wonderful. So,
and she was really young. She wrote, Josephine Johnson wrote Now in November in her 20s, I think. But yeah, it's strange that it's a virago modern classic published in Britain about the American Dust Bowl, and it's essentially functionally out of print in America and has been for donkey's years. It was published, I think, by the Feminist Press for a while there. This really ugly hardcover of it. But anyway, so what was a year when you feel the Pulitzer Committee got it dramatically wrong?
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up 2 examples. Over time, more and more has been revealed about the years that there was no Pulitzer chosen, and so you didn't know who the finalists were and that kind of thing. But more and more that's kind of coming out. At the time that I was doing the Pulitzer Project, the only year I knew about was 1974, when the fiction jury recommended to the committee Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And so I felt obligated to read that book. I don't know why, but I did. I read it, and it is on my Pulitzer shelf in Goodreads, but I can't believe there was nothing better in American literature that year. Second year is 1991. John Updike won for his 4th Rabbit book, Rabbit at Rest. He also won the Pulitzer for the 3rd one in that series, which meant I read all 4. Anyway, I was really upset, though, when I did learn that one of the finalists that year is Tim O'Brien's masterpiece, The Things They Carried. Jason has read this. because I made our book club read it. But he would say that this is a collection of short stories.
No, I wouldn't. I only do that to get your goat sometimes.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, I think it's an absolutely phenomenal piece of American literature. And if nothing else, the next time you see this in a bookstore somewhere, just sit down and read the first chapter, and there'll be no way that you can leave the book there. So anyway, this is one of my favorite books. So I don't know what's going to win tomorrow. I had got a Facebook memory today that was like 5 years ago today, and I had this big stack of books, and I had gone to the library and checked out a bunch of things that were getting Pulitzer buzz. It ended up being none of them. So I am going to take a risk, and I'm going to say Lincoln in the Bardo, but I don't know for sure. But I'm ready. I have it here. I actually really do want to read this book because I've heard so many great things about it. But Pulitzer Prize committee will often surprise you.
My favorite Pulitzer's The Road.
And Gilead won the Pulitzer. So again, there's another one. And I just didn't talk about them because I've seen so many people on BookTube talking about those particular books. So I wanted to try to bring to light some ones that you may not have heard of. Obviously, you've heard of Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. So did you hear that comment? She's seen them discussed on BookTube. So even though she doesn't have a channel, it should be known that she loves you guys' videos as well.
I do.
So anyway, so we will leave it there, and yeah. Let's talk Pulitzers in the comments below, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Adios.
Have a good night.